Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Abilities Podcast. I am your host, Nick Earhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. All right, everyone. Today we have Dr. Carrie, and I can't wait for her to talk about everything she does and how she helps people. So, Dr. Carrie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Dr. Carrie Johansson. Most people just call me Dr. Carrie, and I am a psychologist, fondly known as the sensible psychologist, because I bring sensible, practical, helpful psychological information to people so that they can enjoy their lives more.
I love that. I love that. Can you go into a little more detail on that so everybody understands what it is?
Absolutely. So I've been in private practice for 23 years. And, I got into this work because I saw people suffering in ways that I thought that we had good information and they didn't have to keep suffering at the same level that they were suffering. And I got really excited about helping both myself and other people feel better in the world. And in the last several years, I've very specifically specialized in a concept called psychological flexibility, which just basically means that you work with reality and you don't expect real life to be totally perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're doing a real disservice in the self-help world at this point, in that we're either telling people that they should own and really adopt their pathology, right? Like, I can't tell you how many people, Nick, will come in and they'll say, well, my anxiety kept me from doing such and such. And I'm like, it's
Yep.
not your anxiety, right? Like, anxiety is an emotion, it's going to come and go. It can be a mental health issue that certainly can be addressed, but it is not something that you have to like put on like some sort of terrible coat of armor that you have to wear around all the time. And then the other end of the self help spectrum seems to be telling people that if they just think hard enough or feel cleverly enough, that they can manifest a problem free life. And then they end up totally disappointed when life inevitably has ups and downs. And so psychological flexibility strikes a middle path between those two bookends and essentially says, like, hey, let's take a look at the reality we do have, and what where do we have some agency, where do we have some control, and can we do something about it, and where do we need to be in acceptance, even if it isn't something that we want. We can just acknowledge what the reality is and then work with that and not feel like a failure because things aren't perfect.
Exactly. And it can be really hard to, basically have the mindset shift. And, you know, yeah, like you're saying, nothing's going to be perfect. We're going to have ups and downs, and that's life, and that's okay. But it's what you do with the times that are down, that you're down, that matter. Trying
Exactly.
to look at the positive in the situation, not
Hmm.
just focusing on the negative.
Yep. And it's really interesting. Almost all the time, we have a combination of positive, negative, and neutral input coming in towards us, right? And what we'll often do is we'll insist that we only see the positives and we get very narrow, right? And like, I'm going to pretend that that isn't a problem. You actually end up with so much more power when you're like, hey, here are the positives, here are the negatives, like, and here are the things that are just kind of okay, right? But once you're willing and able to look at the whole picture, you end up with a lot more power to do something about any one piece of the picture. It's pretty cool.
I like that a lot, looking at the whole picture. And, I know that I do that in my life. I'm a business owner and there's a lot of downs, and,
Yep.
you know, I just look at it and go, okay, how can I do things differently so then this negative effect doesn't happen again? And then I start, gearing myself towards the positive.
Yep. And you just said two super important things. Number one, you're learning from what happened, right? And number two, you're talking about what you can do. And so I think a piece of what people end up getting stuck with is they end up getting very overwhelmed by their emotions. And they start thinking that just because they're feeling a certain way, that that means something really important. Emotions just give us information. Actions are what actually creates change. So noticing your emotions and then figuring out, like, this is my favorite question. What's my next best move? Right. And then figuring out what is your next best move. And sometimes your next best move is like, I don't have any idea. I got to wait and see how this unfolds. But
Yep.
a lot of times, our next best move is something as simple as pick up the phone and call a friend, or reach out for that one piece of business that you've been procrastinating on reaching out for, or get something completed. But any of those small actions forward, like it doesn't have to be a big giant action, but any small action forward tends to then get the ball rolling in that forward direction.
Exactly, and it really does, just taking the little steps at a time, you know? Sometimes we get stuck when we think that we gotta take big leaps in life, and it's more important just to continually take the small steps.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yep. So, what is your ideal, client?
My ideal client for my private practice is someone who is interested in unpacking some of their old history, their old traumas, and they're very interested in moving forward in a positive way. So, um, these days, it's funny, I started out as a child and adolescent psychologist and saw mostly kids and teenagers. And the older I get, the older my clients get. And now almost all of my clients are middle-aged professional adults, both men and women. Um, and they tend to struggle a little bit with anxiety and they want to feel a little better and to manage their lives a little better. Yeah.
That's awesome. I like asking the question because I know, like, when you were explaining that, some of the listeners are going, "Hmm, that's me," you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and now they know who to contact.
absolutely.
Yep.
And my favorite clients for my speaking end of my business are companies. I'm partnered with a company called the Resilience Institute, and we are teaching folks how to systematically increase their resilience in the workplace. And that is, again, very powerful. Again, working with reality and just bringing health not just into a person's personal life, but into their workplace, I think is really important.
It is really important. And, what got you started on this, path?
Oh my gosh, Nick, a million years ago, when I was 14, I was volunteering as a therapeutic horseback riding volunteer. And so when you ride horses, in a therapeutic setting, these were kids who were very, very profoundly disabled. And you would have one person on one side of the horse, another person on the other side of the horse, and one person leading the horse. And the kiddo that I was working with was both nonverbal and paralyzed. And I think he had cerebral palsy. I can't remember.
That's what
Uh,
I have.
I know. And um, he was just the greatest kid, but totally nonverbal, right? Like, he didn't have language skills, but he had a lot of facial expressions and he communicated. He was able to communicate pretty clearly, even though he couldn't use language. And he was on the horse one day and he had a seizure and literally fell off into my arms. And we like get him back on the horse, and the horse did the best job. He was just totally calm and just waited until the kiddo was back on and safe. And we walked over and got him over to his parents, and his mom was in tears and she said, I forgot to give him his meds this morning. And in my sweet rigid 14-year-old brain. I didn't understand how she possibly could have forgotten to give him his meds. Now that I'm older and a mom myself, I could totally understand how she forgot to give him his meds.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just made a commitment right then that I wanted to help people as my life's work. And this kiddo just totally inspired me. Yeah.
That's
That,
an incredible story.
yeah. And that experience. And I can't really put into words why it flipped a switch for me, but it just did.
Yeah. Well, I think we all go through situations in our life that kind of, make that shift and opens our eyes. And, at that time, you were 14 years old, you were thinking, how could I help people like this little boy? And now that's what you do.
Yeah. And at the time, I was so motivated to help the little boy. And the older I've gotten, I now realize that the mom probably also needed some support, right?
Exactly.
And
Yep.
so to be able to comprehensively help people do the best they can with what they have. And one of the things is the more you do the best you can, the better things often tend to get. And so, I can't promise that trajectory and it doesn't solve all problems. Um, but, I know when I first met you, your attitude makes an enormous difference in how you show up every morning. And I think it makes your life better for it, right?
It does. It does. And every morning I wake up with the intention to help at least one person, and I also want to make myself 1% better.
Yeah.
And with everything that I have planned for my life and the impact that I want to make, it makes it easy to get out of bed most days. Not
Yeah.
every day, but
Not
most
every
days.
day.
Some days you're still like, I don't want to, but it's amazing when you have that purpose in life and you know what you want to do. And I'm convinced that like everybody that has a purpose that drives them really hard, it's all about helping other people. Like I think every purpose out there is intended to help others.
It is interesting when I've met with folks whose purpose is to like make a ton of money or to become famous. Um, First of all, I see that often seems to take them longer to reach their goals. But also, if I have somebody that I'm working with who wants to be really successful or wants to be famous or something like that, but there's a bigger foundational why underneath, they seem to do better and feel better in their lives, which I think is great. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like we all want, more money and all that, but it's what you do to get there that matters. And like for me, I know that to start helping people is going to improve my life. And that's what I care about is helping others, you know,
absolutely.
helping as many people as I can and making a difference.
And I feel like if you're oriented to helping other people, but you're also paying attention to taking care of yourself, I I do. I think it makes it easier to get out of bed in the morning, and I think it also makes it easier to keep going the next time that you run into something hard.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And, as life goes on, it it tends to get easier to do the hard things because like one thing that I've been doing lately is when I'm going through something challenging, I take a moment to reflect on my life and I point out all the challenges that were a lot harder that I got through. And it's
Yeah,
like, well, if I got through that, I can get through this.
I can
And that
probably get
makes
through
it
this.
a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also decreasing the amount of time that you're worrying about what's going to happen in the future, right? Like, obviously, control for what you need, right? Like, I live in
Hmm.
Denver and it's winter in Denver. So, like, make sure you check your tires in the fall and make sure you don't have crummy tires for the winter, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a prudent way. It's a prudent way to prepare for a future, right? But just worrying about just worrying about things tends to keep us looping and spinning, and it's not very active, and it also tends to feel really bad, and it feeds those stories of both negativity or worry or distress. And if you can switch that into like, okay, I'm really distressed about this or I'm worried about this, is there anything I can do about it today, right? And if the answer is no, then go and do something else that you can take care of. If the answer is yes, like, let's please go take care of it.
Mhm. Yep. I like that, and we all get down on ourselves, and it's important for me. That's what I do. Is when I'm feeling that, you know, basically depression, where I don't quite know what to do that's gonna help my situation. I remember why I'm doing it, and I might go and journal and just go back to that reason why I started and why I'm working so hard. And I think it really helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
hmm So for everybody listening, how can they reach out to you?
Oh, I love to hear from people. The easiest place to go is my website, selfhelponthego.com. And that has links to my book and it has a contact form. You can either call me or email me. It's selfhelponthego.com.
And then your book is also self help on the go, right?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Oh,
it's the book that my clients asked me to write because they would very generously come in with their big, thick self-help book and they'd give it to me and they'd say, you can give this to another client. I'm not going to make it all the way through, right? They're like, can you just tell me what to do the next time my boss is being a jerk? And so I ended up writing a book. It has 10 chapters of 10 common problem areas. And you turn to the chapter that describes the problem area you're in the middle of. And there's 10 different suggestions that most of which you can try right in that moment and see if it's helpful. You read like 2 pages at a time, close the book. Yeah. So you don't need to read it from cover to cover. And
I love that.
it's all based in that concept of psychological flexibility.
I love that. That's so perfect. And I wrote a little book myself about how to stay or get motivated, and it's basically the same thing where you can just open it up, read like one page, and it's gonna help you. So yeah, that's
Isn't that
awesome.
terrific? What's the
Yeah,
name of your book?
it's called Empowering Motivational Strategies.
Oh,
It's like
cool.
46 pages. It's not perfect. It was my first book. We self published it. There was a lot of errors in it, but hey, it was it's kind of funny how it came about. Me and my accountability group, we were all like challenging each other to do something like outside of our
Yeah.
comfort zone,
Yeah.
and I picked writing a short little book, and we just made it happen. We got it out within like I think from start to finish was like 9 days. Just yeah, just we got it out, and so yeah, it's not perfect, but everybody that has ever read it says it's super helpful. So
That's
that's what I care about.
Yep.
This episode of the Infinite Abilities podcast is brought to you by the one and only Infinite Toolbox, where just like all other toolboxes, we will get the job done, guaranteed. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to save time, boost revenue, or automate your processes, Infinite Toolbox has got you covered. With powerful tools designed to drive leads, expand your reach, and gain your industry secrets, we help you work smarter, not harder. Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Visit us at infinitetoolbox.com. That's infinitetoolbox.com and discover how infinite your potential really is. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. All right. And then my slogan is your abilities are infinite. What does that mean to you?
My abilities are infinite. Your abilities are infinite. It feels like a mantra of hope to me because it means that you have options, and if you're ever feeling like you don't have enough options or that you're stuck, that you can actually slow down and dig in and return to moving forward. Yeah.
I like that a lot. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And this has been incredible. But before we go, do you have any last words of wisdom for the audience?
You know, my favorite thing to say, and I think it's important to know that I apply all of this to myself as well. So this isn't me, pretending I'm on some pedestal telling you, down below what you can do. It's like I work this program too, but I truly believe that life is meant to be enjoyed. And so I hope that everyone is doing small, medium, and large things that they really enjoy, both for themselves and for others. I think it makes the world a better place.
And, it resonates a lot with me that you brought that up because, I've been working really hard getting my business going, helping my clients and all of that. And I was literally, I didn't have days off. It was just 24/7, go, go, go. And I kept, just, I was drained. I was tired. I wasn't getting along with my business partner. And I reached out to somebody who's kind of like a coach for me
Mhm.
and my business partner. We work together on a lot of things. And he, he is excellent at like working with others. So I
Mhm.
asked him for advice, and that's what he brought up. He's like, "Do you take days off?" No.
No.
He's like, "You need to take 2 days off a week."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "I can't do that." He's like, "It don't
You
matter if
can't.
you can, you need to. So just make it happen." And we started doing that about 6 weeks ago.
How do you feel?
Amazing. And we're getting more done now than we did before.
Well,
So
that's the
yeah,
secret. When people say
yeah.
they're too busy to take care of themselves,
Hmm.
you will actually be more productive. You'll feel better, be more productive, and be faster. You can think faster
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
actually having systems and periods of rest and renewal.
Yep. So everybody out there, if you're an entrepreneur like we are, and you're just working, 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 you need to take 2 days off.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. All right. Well, Dr. Carey, thank you so much. This was really incredible.
Thank you, Nick. It's really sweet to be here, and I your approach to the world really humbles me. I like it a lot.
Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me in it, the Nick Heart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember your abilities are infinite.